The Mayo Experience.
Mayo Experience. Mayo Experience. Mayo Experience. Experience.
Welcome to the Pat Mayo Experience, presented by Jagermeister. Give your beer a real shot this summer. An ice cold shot of Jagermeister. I'm doing it, you do it, everyone do it. I'll see if Len Don Diego's doing it. He's on the line from DK Live, talking about some World Cup today knockout stage, first 2 days, Saturday and Sunday. So hit the index if you want the particular breakdown of the game. So if you're watching this on a Saturday, you can still watch, just skip forward to the Sunday games. Or you can just rewind it to see how right or potentially wrong we were in predicting the two Saturday games. Remember to subscribe, iTunes, podcast, all that fun stuff, and give the episode a like. Now that we're done, let's bring Len in. Len, what's up, dude?
What's going on, Pat? Thanks for having me. Excited to be here. No Jaeger yet today, so hopefully I'll be more right than wrong.
Yeah, listen, you're blowing it if you're not drinking Jaeger already.
Yeah, it's like noon, so yeah, I probably should already be halfway deep in a bottle.
All right, so there's no DraftKings slates out yet in terms of the player pricing, but that's going to be happening, obviously, over the course of the weekend. So let's, even though we don't have the pricing, maybe try to identify a stack or two during an individual day as well with one of these teams where we can look to potentially exploit some value here, and we'll run over the odds. So here are the odds right now for overall World Cup winner. And not all the teams have actually qualified. There's still a Monday slot left, still a Tuesday slot left. But Brazil, the overwhelming favorite, along with Spain. So 3.5 to 1 for Brazil, 4 to 1 for Spain. Obviously, they get Russia in the round of 16, so that could go pretty well. Belgium and England, 6.5, 7.5 to 1. France, 8 to 1. Croatia, 10 to 1. Argentina, 12. And then it just drops into the bottom half. Uruguay, Portugal. Portugal's odds like now are basically the same as they were pre-tournament, which is kind of crazy, I guess. I mean, I don't really know. I've been watching this stuff with no sound very intermediately at the gym while I'm like running on a treadmill. So I don't even know who's who. So this is why I really need you to help me break it down. Anything just jump out to you right away? Like, who has the easiest path to the final so far?
Look, I think a team like Spain and has a good path. Like, they're a massive favorite against Russia. It's basically a free pass to the quarterfinals. I think what jumps out to me, and they are in a tougher bracket, is Argentina at 12 to 1. Messi's the best player in the world, conceivably. You can argue Messi, Ronaldo, but it feels like Argentina went overvalued and back to undervalued. At 12 to 1, I think that's an interesting price. Croatia could be interesting. I think Denmark could be interesting. What I said before, my pick before this whole thing began was Belgium. I think we're whatever top side of the bracket they end up in. If they have to play Brazil in the second round, it's not a great look for their odds. So, I think we have to wait and see what happens with Belgium and England, but I think I'm not that interested in any of the favorites. I think it's basically, for me, I said it was going to be a weird World Cup. I think Croatia, Denmark, Belgium, England, like, you want to take some of the bigger prices here. I'm not interested in Spain at all. I don't think they have a complete team, even though they do have a slightly easier path. I think I'm so interested now at Argentina at 12 to 1.
All right, so, I mean, I do got to give you credit where credit's due. You said you had made one DK appearance in the past 6 months, and it was that Germany wouldn't make it to the knockout stage. So that's a pretty hot take, like, right off the bat to be right about.
Yeah, I have a theory, like, it's not about talent, right? When you come into the World Cup, like, these players don't play frequently with each other. It's not a club team. They're not playing with each other all the time. They had just a series of wacky controversies that sort of threw me off for Germany. They didn't take their probably arguably second best player, one of the top 10 players in the world for me, Leroy Sané. They just decided not to take him. Something weird's going on there. They had a controversy with Mesut Ozil and the president of Turkey. Jerome Boateng was hurt. Neuer was hurt. It just didn't seem like they were there ready to play and play with each other. So I think the things you can take away from watching the game so far, and with sound on or off, it's all about organization. A lot of these teams are disorganized. They might have better talent, but you can see a lot of goals are scored off set pieces in the World Cup. People don't mark. They don't practice with each other. So, one or two good players can shift the tide against a team that might be infinitely more talented, which we've seen so far. So, when you're picking lineups, for example, even on the first day, you want to look for who are the standout individual performers that are always on the ball. Anything can happen now in the round of 16. To me, there's not a complete team left in this tournament.
Not even Brazil?
Brazil's good. You have to question them too. I mean, they haven't been challenged. You have to see what Neymar does in some of these bigger games. I think they have an interesting matchup against Mexico in the first round. It should be close. I think Brazil's the odds-on favorite, but it's no fun rooting for Brazil.
Yeah, it's not. It's when people were making their pre-tournament selection, they're like, "Oh, you got to take Germany, Germany or Brazil. Those are my two picks."
No thanks.
At least you had fun with one of the favorites and took Belgium. They were like the trendy team, though, weren't they?
Yeah, Belgium. Like I didn't want to pick Belgium, but they were really trendy the last World Cup. I guess they're still pretty trendy. They're a team that it's interesting because a lot of the players on Belgium all play in the English Premier League. Some of them are even on the same teams there. You can tell that they've played with each other and enjoy playing together. They haven't been challenged either. So let's see what happens in the knockout round. They certainly have the talent to win. I want to see where they end up in what side of the bracket they end up in.
Yeah, so I mean, I guess it would be England could end up on the good side of the bracket potentially too if they end up defeating Belgium or get through on tiebreakers or whoever that works. I mean, I just see a bunch of skinny dudes and shiny shoes running around in circles. I didn't realize there was like organization to any of this. But is England in terms of the North American and just English-speaking betting market like the Cowboys and Patriots of betting, where they're just always going to be overvalued?
It probably, but the weird thing about England is everyone just assumes they're going to choke at some point. I think it's just the team has high expectations and low results. Like coming from being a fan of the Mets and Jets, that's typically what happens anytime there's any success. You're just kind of waiting for the disaster. But this England team is a little bit different. If you follow at all with Harry Kane, he's definitely changed the culture there. You have to question some of their team selection, especially on the defensive side. I think if they bring in Eric Dyer as center back and maybe just drop Kyle Walker and not play him in the middle of the field, I think they have the talent to win. They have one of the elite strikers in the world in Harry Kane. You can win any game with him on the field. It remains to be seen what they can do against some of the better teams. I don't think they can win, but they're certainly dangerous. They can beat anyone.
Well, just from like an overall knowing nothing about soccer outside of watching a little bit of the World Cup every 4 years and then tuning into some of the Euros, Switzerland's scoring. How is this happening? You know, I always just like whenever I can recall watching Switzerland, it's always like 1-0, 0-0. That's about it.
Yeah, they have some good players. Some of it's been just they're an up and down team. They have one of their backs, Ricardo Rodriguez, has something like 21 crosses so far. So a lot of these teams will play more open, especially in the group stage. Switzerland is one of those teams. I mean, they have talent. Shaqiri is one of the best kind of dead ball players, free kicks, things like that. He's also, run himself out of some teams with a interesting personality. Switzerland has talent. I think they're a team that gets smashed if they play a good team, but they have Sweden in the first round. That's a very winnable game. We'll see what happens. They have an easier bracket, but they're not. They're a team that would lose by multiple goals to a good team, in my opinion.
Well, the thing is, like, because they're on that side of the draw, and the reason that I bring them up, they're 33-1, so they get Sweden, and then they get the winner of Colombia and whoever comes second, or basically whoever loses the England and Belgium game, the G2. So if, let's say, theoretically, they could get past Colombia, Belgium seems tougher than England at this point. Let's say you get past England. It could happen that you win 1-0. Then you're into the semifinals with a 33-1 team, where then they would play probably Denmark, Spain, or Croatia, one of those three teams if Russia doesn't move on. You could almost like hedge your way to the finals if you can get one of these teams. Like Croatia's only 10-1. It's impossible to do with them. But when you look at it, it seems like Colombia or Switzerland are one of the two teams that if you could get them through to the semifinals, then it's basically free money.
Yeah, I mean, I liked some of the long prices there, and Denmark too. To me, it's like any one of those teams that has one kind of dominant on-the-ball player. For Switzerland, it's Shaqiri. For Denmark, it's Christian Eriksen, who might be one of the three best players left in the tournament. Colombia, James came off the field today, so we'll see what happened there. Colombia is interesting. They definitely have the talent to do it. I like Denmark as a potential upset over Croatia too. Just looking for that single elite performer in fantasy. Christian Eriksen, you have to play him in fantasy, and in the real world, he can win you a game easily with just 2 touches.
Yeah, well, maybe this is a better discussion about Denmark than it is about Switzerland. So Switzerland's 33-1. Denmark's 80-1 to win it all.
I like Denmark. I like Denmark going a little bit farther than people think. I think they can beat Croatia. Obviously, they're not a favorite to win any game they're going to play for the rest of the tournament, but like I said, they have Christian Eriksen, so any game can be turned, especially if it gets late and it's tied and it's close.
Well, the World Cup's been going on for 2 years now, it seems like. Any standout moments besides Maradona?
that whirlwind of him. Like I could watch him watch games any day. Like what did he say? It was white wine that he was drinking up there.
I mean, white wine contains a lot of sugar, along with the high degree of alcohol in it. So it's almost like drinking a Red Bull that's just super jacked up with vodka.
Yeah, it was. He had a whirlwind experience. I think that Argentina game was a lot of fun. Just going late, Rojo scoring out of nowhere. So far, other than the Germany collapse wasn't even that interesting. It was a little bit boring. It's been fun to watch. I think Harry Kane. He wants to win the Golden Boot. He's the favorite. The Golden Boot's most goals scored. He's been really fun to watch. And I think for me, what Messi can do now with the world of pressure on his shoulders is going to be particularly interesting. That's why I kind of like them. Like people said, France is probably a better overall team. Like Argentina's roster is ancient, but to watch an individual performer in soccer like Messi try to win the game himself, essentially, is going to be really fun to watch to see what they can do.
All right, let's get into the games. First game out, France and Argentina. France is a favorite at, I do like soccer odds that everything is plus money. You can just get right into it. So it's plus 137 for France to win the game. It's plus 260 for Argentina, plus 210 to go to extra time. So you do like Argentina here to potentially pull this upset?
Yeah, that's why I think for me before the tournament, I said they're a candidate to go out in the group stage. It was pretty close for them going out, like had to come down to 80th minute. I think they're a little undervalued now. It's hard to undervalue the best player in the world, but I think they can beat France. France is a team that hasn't been challenged yet. Overall, incredibly talented team. But when you get into this stage, I think Argentina wins this game. I think Messi does something here. It's just, it's the way the script has been written. Argentina sneaks in. Messi has the pressure, but he also has some momentum. I think they win this game.
All right, so if we're thinking about this from a DraftKings perspective, you obviously put Messi in. If you think Argentina is going to win, you think that a lot of that goes through Messi. Who else do you think you're putting with him?
Yeah, well, listen, Messi becomes a real problem for roster construction. We know he's going to be by far the most expensive player. Ronaldo is also going to be on this slate. So, I think it's super interesting what you do there, where the pricing ends up. What I think it's just a dynamic. Like those two players will likely, if their team wins, score once, probably score multiple goals. They're going to have 5+ shots on goal. So you have to make a stand somewhere, right? Do you fade both of them? Do you play one? And I think that will affect your entire lineup, because if you're not going to be able to play both. If you play one, you're going to have to go cheap elsewhere. You can look to Uruguay, but again, they have Cavani and Suarez, really expensive options. I think some of the French options are also going to be really expensive. It's going to be we lost the light here. It's going to be a stars versus scrubs situation. I think some of the defenders, especially on the Argentina side, are interesting. Center back Diego Godin, he's going to get up. But listen, the whole team, like if you play Messi, you're going to have to go cheap elsewhere. So that's basically it for roster construction.
Yeah, so when we're trying to target some of these cheaper players, would you just go full-on team stack with the team? Let's say you're picking Argentina and you pick Uruguay to beat Portugal. Would you just stack those two teams, and unless there's some sort of obvious scrub value that gets inserted into the lineup late on France or Portugal, then just basically stick with those two teams?
Yeah, I think stacking is a viable play in soccer. You want to try to find, what are the likely combinations of assists to goals. One guy in Argentina that I think about who had an assist in the last game is Ever Banega in the midfield. He looks to be one of the most capable players. One of the problem with Argentina has been the lineup. So here's what you avoid with Argentina. You avoid Gonzalo Higuain, who's going to be expensive. You want to avoid the other forwards on the team. And that's, even for me, it's Aguero. I think you want to play Messi and then one of the midfielders like a Mesa or a Banega that can assist them, and maybe one defender that'll get in the mix. For me, for soccer, I like kind of a 3-player stack. I think that's going to give you the best chance at assists. Once you go beyond 3 players, unless they score 4 or 5 goals, I think it's going to be really tough for that team to pay off in a stack format. So, Argentina, Ever Banega stands out to me. Hopefully he's in the lineup. It's super interesting why they haven't played Paula Dybala at all, who's basically one of their best creative players. Argentina, you have to see the lineup, but look, I would stack them and see who you can get in the creative midfield space.
When you choose goaltenders, we've been your goalkeepers. Sorry, soccer. Oh, football.
Keepers.
Sorry, keepers, football, all this fun stuff that people get very like triggered about if you don't use the right terminology when it comes to it. Yeah, I know. It's like when Canadians get really upset at Americans for using wrong hockey terms, although they're probably the right hockey terms. That's not how we say it in Canada. So anyway, from the French side of the ball, let's say this is a game for the French. Argentina they kind of crapped out at the end of the group stage. That's it for them. What would we be looking at from the French side of the ball as players to potentially target?
Yeah, I mean, Griezmann has been their key man. He sort of plays on the wing. He can play as a forward. If they're going to score, it's going to be through him. It's interesting. They've kind of rotated the team a little bit. Their wingbacks are interesting. Benjamin Mendy, Hernandez. If you're looking for defenders, they'll probably be a little bit more expensive, but the French defenders do get into the attack. But I think Griezmann is the most interesting choice. I actually don't think I'll focus on France too much. The prices will be too high compared to what the potential return is, because the team is a little bit more spread out. You have Dembele up front, you have Griezmann, you have Pogba, you have a lot of different options for the French team. It's unclear. They don't have that one single dominant player, which I really like to look for in these games, because when you have that single choice where the action is going to funnel through them, when Leo Messi, he's taking the penalties, taking the free kicks. Like for France, it could be a mixture. I mean, Griezmann's probably the most likely player to score or be involved in multiple goals, but for me, if you go there, it's really hard to fill out the rest of your roster.
All right, pick for the game. You're picking Argentina. What's the score?
For the France-Argentina game, I think Argentina takes it 3-1. I think there's a potential for extra time, multiple goals there, but I think Argentina pulls this out, and you see something special from Messi here.
Uruguay and Portugal is up next. When we look at the lines for the game, Uruguay is the favorite, but a very marginal favorite at plus 180. Portugal's 2-1 to win the game. For the game to go to extra time, it is 2-1. So if Uruguay wins, I would assume it's a lower scoring game. If Portugal wins, it's like 4-2, something like that.
Yeah, I think Uruguay, they've been fine in this tournament. What they have Suarez and Cavani up top. They're both getting up there in years. Like Suarez hasn't looked great in this tournament. He's missed a lot of chances. To me, I think Portugal do win here. I think it's just been the year of Ronaldo. And what better script to write than Messi versus Ronaldo in the next round? Like, I think it has to happen at this point on this stage. I think Portugal pull it out. I think Uruguay have the potential to be shut out. I think they have the potential to score multiple goals, but in my mind, the way I see this game developing, I think Portugal can win. If we all remember, they won the Euro. This isn't the most talented team, but again, they have the most interesting and probably best player maybe in the history of the game in Ronaldo. He scored a hat trick for fun against Spain. I think Portugal win this one.
So if it comes down to playing this slate and you can only choose between Messi and Ronaldo as your forward, would you go Ronaldo over Messi?
That's probably this is personal preference. I think it's Messi just based on narrative here. I think he's just going to be on the ball. Like you saw him, he'll just pick up the ball and try to go 1v5 sometimes. So, I think if you're Ronaldo, it's not a bad play to take Ronaldo. I just think Messi with the momentum, it should be, I'm going him.
Well, who are some of the targets in this game? Because we've talked about doing the stacking, and if you're going to play one of these stars, you need to find someone, at least from the mid-tier, and potentially a scrub to go to in your DraftKings lineups. What are you looking at from at least the Portugal side of the ball?
Yeah, I think it depends what they do in the midfield. We saw Griezmann score. He'll probably be on the more expensive side. Bernardo Silva will probably be more on the expensive side. I think it's hard to play multiple Portugal players with Ronaldo. You could look to the back. Like, you could even look to some of the center backs, Pepe, somebody like that. Like, you really need to go low to pair with these. That's why I've been looking at center backs, and I think that's where you could look on either side of the ball here. You're not really, they're not going to have crosses, but what happens in a lot of these games is you have set piece and headed goals. So that's Godin, that's Pepe, that's whoever else ends up starting at center back for Portugal. They tend to be in that salary range of $3,000 to $4,500, and that's the only way you can unlock these stars. So you're losing out on the wing backs for both teams here. But I'm not looking for clean sheets, so it's not the type of thing where if I play Ronaldo, I'm not going to play anyone on Uruguay. you could go ahead and play a center back on Uruguay like a Diego Godin, who is constantly involved in the attack on corner kicks. So look to center backs. I think they've been the key to the tournament so far. You've seen them win multiple slates from, Harry Maguire on England to Mina on Colombia. Like, center backs will win tournaments because they end up being low owned and they're getting up and multiple headed goal opportunities.
What do we do in terms of goalkeeper from this slate? Do you just take the cheapest option to make your lineup work, or do you actually have a preference?
I think you make exactly what you said. Whatever you have left is the goalie you're going with. I mean, listen, if you end up with a stack of 4 Argentinian players, you're not taking Hugo Lloris from France, right? I think Argentina, if they start, I don't think they will, but if they start Willy Caballero, he's probably the one player to avoid. I think goalkeepers are mostly even, and unless you're Willy Caballero, who's one of the worst goalkeepers I've ever seen play. So whatever you have left and whatever is the least correlated to negatively to what you have. So, don't be afraid to take a cheap option. I don't think there'll be many particularly cheap options left, but there's not one goalkeeper that I'm going to say, oh, this guy's so great, because look, David De Gea, everyone's the goalkeeper for Spain. He hasn't made a save yet in the tournament. So, I don't think goalkeeper, you're looking at talent. You're looking at opportunity and salary cost.
All right, score of the game?
Oh, boy, I'm going 2-0 Portugal. Ronaldo scores from the penalty spot.
All right, next game, Spain at the host country of Russia. So I assume this game is rigged and Russia wins, 7-0?
You'd think. I mean, we saw Russia come out, open game, win 5-0. Great homeland win to win the first one. And then they looked really bad in the third group game. So Russia's not very good. Spain is an absolutely massive favorite here. The only narrative you have on the Russian side, look, the game's in Moscow. They're going to play it hard. Could you see this game going into extra time? Sure. I don't think, I wouldn't be betting Spain at minus 300 or being that confident they're going to smash here. The talent gap is huge. Spain has looked good. I think the key man for Spain is Isco. He's had a ton of crosses, ton of shots. He plays in a different role for Spain than he really has for Real Madrid. I really like Isco on this slate. He's incredibly involved. He is interesting to pair with Diego Costa if you can afford it, but Spain is the much more talented team. Russia's been a little bit interesting from a fantasy perspective. They get some crosses in. Their stats are really inflated from the game against Saudi Arabia, but they're not a very good team. I know people will draw the narrative, but I think Spain wins this game by multiple goals.
Yeah, Spain is a minus 163 to win outright betting favorite. It's plus 290, so 2.9 to 1 if people don't know about plus 290 and things like that. In terms of what these lines are actually telling you, to go to extra time, Russia to just straight up win 5.5 to 1, probably not going to happen, but it seems like if you're going to take the Spain side of the ball, or even if you take the Croatia side of the ball in the second game on this slate, those are where the expensive options are going to rest. So you might need to pad the lower end of your team with some Danish players or potentially with some Russian players. Are there any Russian players you can think of that would kind of fit that mold?
Yeah, I mean, Golovin is a really talented player on the attack. They've sort of spread out what they do on set pieces. They had multiple players with 10 plus crosses. I think you just look at the starting lineup for Russia, which they've rotated a little bit. There are a bunch of midfield players that are just going to get in there and make tackles. I like Golovin if you want one player who's very talented on the team overall. Look, you could play the Russian goalie, Akinviv. I very badly butchered that name, but the Russian goalie is an interesting option here, especially if you say, okay, I'm going to build a team, with Croatia as my lead stack. You hope the Russian goalie makes 5 to 6 saves and go from there. But, Russia's not a team I'll be stacking. It's an opportunistic. Do I, want to punt a little bit with a defensive midfielder? But I think Denmark is probably a more interesting punt based on what I think is a real chance to win that game. All
right, so give me a score for Russia against Spain.
3-0 Spain.
Just blowing.
That's a really boring line, but I think it'd be I think Spain can, if you're going to have any action on Spain, stack their attackers. This is look for multiple goals, and I think that if they don't win by multiple goals, I'm wrong.
Croatia and Denmark is the final game of the slate, the later game on Sunday. So you think that Denmark is live in this spot?
Yeah, I mean, if looking through this, if I'm picking an upset, I think Denmark can do it. Again, it's kind of a ragtag squad, but you really have to look at the one player that can turn it. Christian Eriksen is insanely good. He's scored already in this tournament on a pretty sick volley. He has an interesting connection to Luka Modric, who's the star player for Croatia. They both came up. Luka Modric played at Tottenham in holding kind of center attacking midfield role. Christian Eriksen has kind of filled that void for Spurs. They're very similar players, except Christian Eriksen is in his prime and Luka Modric's 33. Luka Modric played all 3 group stage games. I really was shocked Croatia ran him out in the 3rd game. He just came off a long season with Real Madrid in a long and hard-fought Champions League campaign. I think Denmark could surprise. I just think that they can contain Croatia long enough. This is the type of game that could be ugly to watch. If it goes to Denmark's playbook, they're looking to score off a set piece, a penalty, or even take this to penalty kicks. So, I think Denmark could win here. I would say they're 80-1 to win in the tournament. Could be an interesting play. Like if they get through here, anything could happen.
Yeah, so if they get through here, they would have to play the winner of Spain and Russia. And there's the potential that Spain just waxes Russia because is Russia the worst team that's made it to the knockout stage?
So far, probably. I think it depends. I mean, maybe Japan, right? Japan got through this morning. They're pretty bad. That's essentially a free pass game. But I think Russia, narratives aside, that's for Spain. They should play for fun in that game.
Well, what happens, and obviously when people are watching this, they'll know the result, but if you were England or Belgium, would you rather play Japan in the round of 16 and then potentially have to face Brazil in the next round, or lose that game, get Colombia in the round of 16, and then get the winner of Switzerland and Sweden? It seems like that second path is the better path.
Yeah, I think you want to finish second there, right? Like you may have an easier first game against Japan than versus Colombia, but playing Brazil in the second the quarterfinals, not really great for your chances to go far. I mean, you can make the argument that, look, we might end up playing them anyway. Let's knock them out now. That's what I would say if I was giving the locker room speech. But I don't think that's a great bracket to be in. I mean, you have Messi and Ronaldo in that bracket. Like every game's going to be tough. The bottom bracket is a little wacky. Like Spain's good, but like who knows what happens there. Croatia, Denmark, Sweden, Switzerland, all flawed teams. So whoever Belgium or England's in that bottom bracket is going to have a really strong chance to get to the semifinal.
All right, what do you got for a score in the Denmark and Croatia game?
1-0 Denmark, extra time, Christian Eriksen.
So no penalty kicks on the front.
I haven't predicted penalties.
Yeah, let's do penalties. Let's predict penalty kicks.
This game to me is the most likely to go to penalties. I think France-Argentina, I said 3-1 Argentina, but I said that's 3-1 in extra time. But I think this game can go to penalty. I think that's what Denmark wants. Croatia has a lot of skilled players, Rakitic and Modric specifically in the midfield, Perisic as well. They're going to be good in penalties. But again, who knows when the pressure's on what really happens. But it's been fun to watch Croatia, and they demolished Argentina to show kind of the skill gap there. But, who's to say? Like at this point, the group stage is long forgotten. Everybody knows win one game, you advance. It's a little bit different mentality.
The odds are still open for the Golden Boot right now. You mentioned Harry Kane earlier. He is the favorite. He has the most goals. Ronaldo is second. Like Ronaldo's 4.5-1 to win this with 4 goals already. Obviously, Kane has a game in hand. He's still going to get a free one here. But if you think that, let's say England wins this game, and let's say Harry Kane gets 2 goals, and that puts him up to 7. That's going to be hard to overcome. But then, maximum, you probably don't think that they get by Brazil. Maybe they can kind of feast on Japan a little bit. He can pile up some there, and that's the end of it. If there was anyone else from down this card, because I'm just looking at it right now in just terms of what you've told.
Give me some names.
Okay, so Ronaldo with 4 goals is 4.5-1. Lukaku is 4.5-1 with 4 goals. And this is the one that intrigued me. Diego Costa is 8-1. He has 3 goals already. And it seems like of all of these teams, Spain, while maybe not the best team by any means, does have sort of the easiest path to continue playing games for Costa to keep piling up goals.
Yeah, I think that's really smart. 8-1 there. Like he could easily score. He's definitely a favorite to score against Russia, right? So like he could score multiple times there. Spain's likely to advance. I think there's a lot of thought, like really in these props, it depends the winner here is probably going to be decided by the team that goes the farthest, right? If you told me England was going to be in the finals, Harry Kane's a lock to win this. Harry Kane might sit this game today against Belgium. He's fighting. He said something in the press this morning that he wants to play, but England are thinking about resting him.
So hold on a second. Is this their plan to lose this game so they get the easier draw?
Well, I think that's definitely part of the strategy. I mean, hey, you could say, look, we're already through. Let's rest everybody. I think Belgium will likely do the same in some regard. But, Harry Kane is the type of player from watching him. He did something really interesting this year in the Premier League. He did not get credited for a goal that basically a cross came in, it touched, the top of his hair. He didn't get credit for the goal. He actually appealed to the Premier League the week after because he was in the race with Mo Salah for Premier League most goals. So he's really competitive. He's competitive on his individual stats as well. If Harry Kane's in this tournament, he's going to win it. But there's so many factors that knock England out of this tournament. I don't like it. I think you go deep here. I think Diego Costa is an interesting choice. Some wild card opportunities, maybe look to Colombia. I don't know what the long odds there are on somebody on that side, but I think you drop down this list. It's impossible to say if Ronaldo or Messi are going to advance, but if either of them go far, right, you got to think about that. But I think dropping down to Spain is super interesting, and then I assume Neymar is a low price.
Well, Neymar only has the one goal. He's actually the fifth favorite at 25-1. Like, I don't think that's actual value on him. You're just getting baked in name value.
Look, Neymar, Brazil's a prohibitive favorite to probably go to the final here. Neymar's been not great so far in terms of scoring, but I could see him scoring every game. He has a hat trick opportunity for Neymar, as we saw, in the Champions League with PSG. When he wants to play, when he's focused, it's just a matter of if with him.
All right, so the guy in Colombia right now that has the most goals with 2, he's 100-1, is Jagermeister.
Jagermeister is a center back. He should be more like 20,000-1. But again, he's an interesting DFS play, right? He probably won a slate when he headed in a goal for Colombia in their win in the second game. So that's where you see these center backs shifting the slates. They're not going to win the Golden Boot, but look at somebody like Mina or Davinson Sanchez for Colombia and DFS purposes.
Yeah, I'm just thinking that I guess if England ends up winning this game, if you could parlay these, they would make more sense. That if you could parlay England to beat Belgium along with Harry Kane to win the Golden Boot, that I think that might be the play, because that would guarantee they play Japan. And under the premise of all of this, that means more Harry Kane goals. And if he if he gets a 7, it's probably game over.
Yeah, maybe, but it depends what happens. Like, I think I'm fading Harry Kane here. Like, I'm a huge Harry Kane fan, but I think England, especially if he sits today, I think England has a chance, as good a chance as not, as being out before the quarterfinals.
Losing to Japan?
Losing to Japan or losing to Colombia. Like, there's a chance there, and then you have, one game where Harry Kane can add to his total, and then for some of these teams, your Brazil, your Spain's, multiple games to get there.
Well, is it Christian Eriksen? That's the Danish player. He only has the 1 goal, but he's 80-1 right now. If you do think that Denmark can sort of they're baking in both the odds of the quality of opponent that Denmark is going to end up playing, but if they can get out of this first game and go on a little bit of a run, I guess if you say it's like 1-0 on penalty kicks would be a projection for it, then he's not really doing much here.
Yeah, I don't think Eriksen can get there on volume. He's just the type of player that's going to be involved everywhere. A lot of those are just going to be assists on his crosses or free kicks. I mean, I think, I don't think he can win this Golden Boot. I just don't think he's going to be competitive enough to get there.
All right. Give me a final for the World Cup before we get out of here.
Okay. So on the top, I'm saying Argentina is going to get through on that side. And notwithstanding, I'm going to go with assume Belgium is in the bottom. If it's not Belgium, it'll be England. I say the final is going to be the Argentina, Belgium/England. Whoever gets in from that side will make it to the final. Argentina will win the World Cup. I'm going with the Messi narrative. If you saw the story, he got a ribbon from a reporter. The reporter said his mother had been wearing this ribbon to give good luck out. Messi tied it around his left foot for the last game. I think Argentina do the impossible and get through up on the top of the bracket.
Well, if you're going to use this sort of narrative to make your picks, I'm going to make my pick based on the pure Simpsons narrative of I need to find out who the greatest nation on earth is, Mexico or Portugal. And I'll take
Yeah.
Mexico. How awesome would it be if Mexico won the World Cup?
I think like they look good. Like it would be. It's such a fun story. There's a lot of interesting things. I'm sure we'll wait for the Trump tweet about that if they do win the World Cup. But they could do it. They looked really bad in the last game, but the good thing is they still managed to sneak in. You recover. They beat Brazil. Boy, anything can happen from there.
Well, I mean, this could all be a part of the Russian conspiracy that's going on right here. So Russia rigs the World Cup so Mexico can win. The economy of Mexico goes up because everyone's just spending money because they're so happy that Mexico won. Mexico can pay for the wall. Boom.
I think that, it's too obvious if Russia rigs the World Cup for them to win. I think it's a bigger global conspiracy. I like the way you're thinking. Seems like you've spent a lot of time. You don't watch soccer, but I think you've been doing some sort of global kind of macroeconomic thinking about this whole thing.
I mean, that's what I spend most of my time doing anyway. I'm sitting in front of a camera. I'm talking about sports. The other 60% of my week is just purely on economic commerce in terms of the international sense.
Well, I think, if anybody knows how to make the most out of an economy, it's probably FIFA with the way, they do business. But it's been a fun World Cup. I think, the Simpsons thing is super interesting. Right? Like that, they've predicted almost everything at this point. So is that Portugal-Mexico game inevitable in the semifinal? It'll be a super fun game to watch. But I think, I don't know, something in my heart says Messi does it, but maybe it's just me enjoying watching Diego Maradona. Like, his chance, his life expectancy, which each one of these games and the partying, I hate to see the state he's going to be in if they keep winning, but I'll certainly enjoy watching.
I just pulled a classic, just not paying attention to what's going on move, that there's no way Portugal could play Mexico. You said semifinals. They couldn't play in the finals, so I guess I'll have to go Mexico against Denmark in the finals.
Okay.
Mexico wins. I just want Mexico to win.
What's Mexico's odds to win right now?
They are Mexico odds to win. To win outright. Let's see here. Mexico's odds to win are 66-1.
It's got that 6-6 narrative too. I mean, there's a lot of, I don't know. I like it.
Yeah. See, what type of team are Mexico? Like they're just pure offense, aren't they?
Yeah, I mean, they played like 2 complete games, and then they changed tactics in the third game and got smashed. So they switched from they basically play 5 defenders, typically 3 center backs and 2 wing backs. In the last game, they played 4 center backs and got rid of the wing backs. The coach took the blame for the loss. They're going to go back to their traditional formation. They're a very complete team. Like they don't have, they have Chicharito and Vela and they have some star power. Like Brazil's going to overshadow them. Everyone thinks Brazil's going to win this game easily. I think Mexico has the talent. Like there's not that the talent gap isn't what it's made out to be in this game. Like Mexico has every chance to win it. Their fans seem to be having a good time. Like they had the worst possible thing that could happen. They got blown out. They had really bad tactics. They got over that, right? They learned what they shouldn't do. I think Mexico's a really interesting team in this tournament, one that's probably undervalued.
Okay, so I started looking up this Maradona stuff when all the craziness was going on to see how much money he's worth. Apparently he owes $50 million to the Italian government.
Yeah, when his playing career was gone, he played for Napoli, and there was always some nefarious connection with the mob and how they signed him. And, the more you read about him, he had a really interesting career, one of the greatest players of all time. I don't think he has any money left, but, he's a mascot for the whole nation at this point and super interesting personality. So I always see him on private jets. I mean, you just have to get to that point in your lifestyle where you're so interesting. You don't actually have to pay for anything. You just show up and, let's put him in the suite. Let's see what happens. Let's put him on the jet. Like, I love Diego Maradona. I think he's great. And he will literally say or do anything. So it has that entertainment factor too.
Yeah. So the move is you need to get on the phone with I guess his agent or maybe DM him on Instagram, whatever. You need to get, his next step is basically being a poker player and wearing sponsorships on his shirts because they know they're going to cut to him so many times during the game.
That's not a bad idea. We'll try to get the DK logo on him for this weekend. I'm sure he'll be up for it, but we'll see. We've done some interesting advertising before. We've even advertised on trash cans here in Boston, so we'll think about that.
Yeah, I mean, it's probably cheaper than paying for an advertisement, like a commercial during the game.
Yeah. Yeah, it's that's a good spot. I'm surprised he hasn't sold it yet. But you know, maybe no one's thinking that creatively.
See, that's the thing. He needs someone on his team, although I guess he has no money to pay for anything. But like, hey, if these Instagram people can make millions of dollars doing this, they're showing you on the most watched thing on the planet. Just go for it.
He seems to have a pretty big entourage. Like, there's got to be someone I can reach out to. So after we get off the call here, I'll reach out.
All right, let's make this happen. I look forward to tuning in and watching it without sound and just seeing the DK logo on Maradona during this game.
Yeah, it'll be a fun weekend. So I think the first game is the France-Argentina game. We'll know if my prediction's right by noon Eastern on Saturday, and then, you know, we can all rewind and make fun of me or just stop watching the tournament for me.
See, I'm surprised you came out to do this. I would have just lived off the Germany not making the knockout stage call and just been like, yeah, that's it for me. I won this World Cup. See ya.
Yeah, I come out once a year, say something crazy, and then if it's right, I don't say anything again for another year. But you know, taking a risk here. But I think I love soccer. I think it's a really fun fantasy sport. It's only going to grow. So learn about it. Watch it with the sound off. You don't really need the sound on. I think it's fun either way.
Any big contests for the end of the World Cup potentially coming down the pike?
I think we'll see something really interesting for the final. The showdown slates have been really popular. I think it's a fun way to play. Again, strategy-wise, it's interesting to see how the center backs have done, but I think we'll have something really big for the final, depending on who's in it. But, you know, it's been successful overall. Hopefully that'll carry over for everyone who loves soccer to the EPL slates and beyond this fall.
What about the MLS slates? Everyone loves the MLS.
Yeah, the MLS is fun. They're
oh, you said that with a straight face. Give me a break.
No, hey, listen, I grew up watching the Metro Stars growing up in New Jersey. Tony Meola, I had autographed Tony Meola picture in my room. It's still there. Maybe I'll send it to you for the studio.
Oh, maybe we can get some TFC guys in here too. I mean, I assume the MLS is like the CFL and like the National Lacrosse League. Is that like you have like your two guys that are paid millions of dollars, and then everyone else on the team is like a firefighter on the side?
They've definitely raised the minimum salary, but they still do have like designated player slots. Like, for example, like Toronto has the guy from Italy, right? That's won the MVP the last 2 years. So, you know, there's the focus on international talent. Wayne Rooney's coming over to DC. So, you know, there isn't a complete salary cap. They can pay more to kind of designated stars, which has helped the league from a marketing perspective.
Yeah, so if I ever hire anyone for the office, I can just get like the last guy on the TFC squad, help supplement his salary a little bit.
Exactly.
All right,
exactly.
Len Don Diego, DK Live, check him out over there. Thank you for watching the Pat Mayo Experience presented by Jagermeister. Give your beer a shot this summer while watching with an ice-cold shot of Jagermeister. Thank you for watching. Subscribe to the Pat Mayo Experience wherever you can download audio podcasts, whether it be iTunes, Stitcher, Spotify, TuneIn, iHeartRadio, Google Play, Audio Boom. A whole lot of fun with that, and the video versions up on DK Live and the DraftKings YouTube page. I'm Pat Mayo. Thank you for watching. I'll see you next time.
Pat Mayo Experience! Experience!